Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, the iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, and very, 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 very interesting topic today. And it's something about life. It's something about discovering ourselves. And I'm going to pose a question that I actually didn't think of before, but with this show, I had to ask that question. Do I know my life theme? And I'm going to leave that, as a question for our discussion today with our motivation researcher. And that's going to be a unique name and a title that's going to be probably throwing people off, like, what is that? And we're going to discover that. And our guest today is also a philosopher by trade. He is an author. He does a lot of stuff, and he's going to drive us in the journey of finding ourselves in a different light and hopefully being better. If understanding ourselves is the key, we can determine ourselves better, act better, live better. So without any further ado, I have with me John Voris. And again, he is a philosopher and all the stuff that I mentioned, but the one that's going to give us a true background of John is John. So John, talk to us a little bit. Welcome to the show, first of all.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed getting into motivation research because it has really helped me out in life. But to start, I was a college student and I was thinking about getting into law, and I needed a job. And like all other college students, a door-to-door salesman sounds very attractive. You can use any hours you want. They'll tell you that you can make as much money as you want. They'll train. So it's very attractive. And so the first 4 times I made the attempt, I was fired at door-to-door sales. Every time I was fired, I went to those days, the old days, libraries, and I did listen to tapes, read books, etc., and took workshops and seminars if they were available, and before I went to my next attempt. So I was fired 4 times, went back, and decided next 3 times I would quit so I wouldn't have to go through the embarrassment. So we have 7 attempts and 7 failures. At that time, though, I was a philosophy major, but I focused on language, and I realized that language is the study of language is missing in sales training. And I also had made the discovery that over 90% of the people who try sales door to door for the first time fail, and that bothered me because the people who were doing the training were outstanding people, excellent, made lots of money, very successful. And they're talking to a room full of intelligent, eager people waiting to learn. Why is the fail rate so high? Well, I kind of dropped that. And I bought a delicatessen, thinking that I wanted to get into business. I really didn't care for that, and sold it. But I had to find out why. I mean, I had to find out why this isn't working. So what I did is started looking into what the causes of failure in sales, but it's more than that. It's more about motivation, human motivation. That's going to make the difference. And through my studies in philosophy of language, I started to make discoveries that was really exciting. And things started to happen. I went back out in the field and I was doing door-to-door retail, but I was succeeding. So I solved the problem of the distinction of why there's so many people would fail in sales the first time. So that I like to have you as my guinea pig. Would you be open?
I have been, so I'm good. Go for
Okay.
it.
Okay. So
Let's see if I can do this.
all right. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm looking for your life experience, you might say.
Mm.
So when you think about in the morning, you're getting out of bed. What's the first thing pops in your mind that you need to have your attention on?
Wow, that's deep. That's a lot of things. But the first thing, that's a good one. Well, I guess just getting my balance, really getting my mojo for the morning, getting my energy. That's my
Okay.
focus.
Okay. So what was the first thought you had this morning?
It is a new day and a lot of stuff going on. I need to be ready for it.
Okay. To be ready. There's things for you to do.
I'm
Correct?
sorry? Yeah,
Things
of
for you
course.
to do.
Plenty. Yeah.
Plenty. Okay. What else?
Just, get my motivation ready, get all excited and just go for it. A new
Okay.
day, new opportunities, new
I
everything.
got it. Now tell me what you actually thought.
That I'll go through the day.
So you get up and you're thinking about the people you're going to meet today?
As a matter of fact, yes, some because I
Yeah.
had some settings, things that were already pre-planned that I had to attend to.
Mhm. And why did you have to attend to that?
They're work related things that I, through my regular job, I had to make happen and take care of. So those are tasks and I guess directives that needed to be executed on.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So, and there's things in that process that you had to learn.
Of course. Well, like everything else, we have to learn. Yeah, sure.
But I mean, during the day, even
Oh, yes.
when my client is going to be here, there's some issues, problems, getting them solved. And so, why do you do all that?
Well, I mean, you need to figure everything out and be able to resolve it, and you have to assess it. You have to understand what's going on and meet all those.
Why do you think you have to understand what's going on?
Well, to have an outcome, to know what to do, what your I guess action is going to be.
What does it matter?
Well, if you don't know, what road would you take? What would the actions? What will be the steps you will take to address whatever it is that you're working on?
Why do you have to address any of them?
Well, they can't address themselves. Somebody's got to
No.
do it.
Oh, wait. Why does somebody have to do it?
Well, again, this is a work-related stuff, and it doesn't get alone. I mean, I'm in charge of certain department, and I needed to do some stuff. So,
Okay, you're in charge. So you're concerned with what goes on.
of course,
Yeah.
always.
Okay. So we're done. You did very well. Okay. I know a couple times I put you on the spot.
No,
But,
I'm used to it.
Yeah, I bet. So what I do is this is a very brief version of what I do when I assess someone. First of all, there's 4 areas that you cannot possibly escape. I needed to find a universal format for human motivation that can be applied to anywhere in time and in any culture and any geographic. Very important. So it's not culturally dependent. This is about humanity and who we are as a human species. So what you were talking about is the things you need to do, which is you have to be in action. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the quadrants we have. Another one is you're always getting into relationships, just not relationships to people. You have a relationship to how you eat in the morning, the relationship to how you drive. Everything you're doing in life is related to something other than yourself. And we have to have a faculty to do that. We have to be motivated to do that. Mm-hmm. Another one, yes, learn. We learn constantly because there's new stimulus. There's always something happening. We have to assess this very rapidly in order for us to survive. Next is we all do this because of caring, concern. Because if you're not in control of what you're up to, then it's going to get out of control, and you care about what's around you. You care about how you impress other people, and you have your own integrity. So these 4 are patterns of behavior that no one can escape, And these are 4 expressions of everyone, but one dominates your life. This is what I discover when I assess someone. So yes, maybe this is a love person who cares a lot, but when they learn something that they could use to express caring. For example, a teacher, second grade teacher, third grade teacher. The other one is when you're always in relationships with the entire world, you might say, there's a duality there. And you're always thinking in duality, and you did it here. When I ask you questions, there's always, if there's an A, there's a B, if there's a B, there's a C. You see what I'm saying? And you did that beautifully. And so you're always in relationship, and we're always doing something. And so these 4 are dominating our life, but again, one dominates that. And so by finding out which one dominates, I would find out what's really been motivating your motivations. And this comes in very handy when it comes to careers. And I work with 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds who do not know what they want to do in life, which is, I didn't either. And so they find out what really motivates them, and it really changes their perspective. But also what my clients report is their parents are very happy because they're going to pay for their college, and they want to go in the right direction and learn the right things and stay with it and be successful at it. And this has been working. I've been doing this since, let's say I started using it in 1980 and up to about 2004, 20 years of door-to-door sales, which is getting back to what we're doing, how we started. So I had to make these discoveries in order to work for 20 years in door-to-door sales and raise 2 children. And my wife still hadn't worked, and been very successful. And the one thing I had to do, this is for me, I had to do is abandon everything I ever learned in any sales course, because they don't approach language for what it is, the philosophy of language. They don't have time for it. And I understand that. But I had answers in these readings that I could never find anyplace else. Then what I did is I turned them into seminars and workshops. So I've been teaching this. So it's not personality dependent, which is another issue. Usually have a very sharp guru in front of the room, great personality. I'm not that. If I was that person and said those things, I'd be rolling in the dough, right? But I'm not like that. But that's fine. Point is your theme is an authentic theme. And what I discovered was the human mind has only one need. That is the perpetual need to express their authentic identity. And they do it through objects, people, and events. The rest is all desire. The rest is all want. The rest is fantasy. So when I was out in sales, they would teach you, well, see what your customer really needs. Well, thinking that there was really a need, I approached that person with that type of languaging, trying to satisfy the need. And this person, while I'm talking, has already abandoned that supposed need and moved on. And I didn't make the sale, and I just walk away, and I don't know what happened. Just like a car sales lot has a sign out front, be back motors, because everybody's going to be back. But what they do is they ask them, what do they need? They tell them, they give it to them, and they walk away. And that's because it's not about needs, it's about desire. And so you have to change your language and how you approach them. So it is only one need, and you can't escape that need to express who you are. Now, what happens is we sabotage it. We go in the wrong direction. There are thousands of books will explain that you really need to know who you are. Okay, that's fine. Now what? I'm going to take my mind to analyze my mind, and I'm not a professional, to find out who I am. That's kind of difficult because you're going to take your mind with you.
John, that's coming from a philosopher. That's as deep as it gets.
Yep. So that's the problem. So I had to get around that problem, and I did by reading continental philosophers, and philosophy of language out of France and Germany, and I got all the answers I ever wanted. And then I created courses and workshops, seminars, etc.
Wow.
I know it's a lot. I know.
That's a lot. Well, all right. Well, let's take a pause, and I want to just kind of get back to
Comments. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to dissect some of those elements. The first things first. I mean, your story. I mean, the beginning, right? You've tried, and discovered. Like you claimed failure, or at least you stated that you had 7 failures. But then you discovered, you started reading, you started figuring things out, and you turned that into success ultimately.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just again highlight that point first, to our audiences, because a lot of people, and if not everyone, at the first failure they just give up.
Right.
You did not. You continuously, did it. And by the way, door-to-door sales, just for people, this is not the easiest sales, that's out there. And you're knocking on people's doors, soliciting, you get every single potential incident response and reaction you can have. There's
Right.
some risk factor to it. And when you're young, it's even worse because, you don't know what to expect. It's a little hard. And so again, first of all, that is a tough job. And, for doing it, it was successful from day one. Yes, you may not have gotten the sales, but again, your attitude was everything about it, right? You took it to heart. I mean, you definitely, I couldn't do this. Let me continue. And you did it again and again and again. Even you went and got yourself a deli,
Oh yeah.
a business, which was not really your thing. And then
No,
you
not at all.
discovered, but you didn't give up on you. And that's a big deal, right? You took back what you needed and you made it 20 years plus of doing it with success, but you figured out the right formula. You figured out what was wrong. You
Yes.
attended seminars, trainings, but to your point, keyword, words, language was not exactly the right. Positioning the words to you is everything. As a matter of fact, words mean everything. I mean, a word can become an idea can become an action and a plan, whatever. I mean, a lot of things. You can change the word with words, right?
Oh yeah.
So you did all that. And by the way, for salespeople, and by the way, this is live in general, but for the sales folks, and everybody is somehow selling something in their lifestyle, whatever they do, there's a sales transaction they do. You did all that, and you did it rightfully with the right success. But one thing, key element you said was you put away all the stuff that you've learned from these classes, and you switch that, you tuned it to something different, to a different frequency, and applied that. And you found a whole new way of doing this to discover yourself, to understand your purpose, your theme. And then we went to that little exercise with me. And what I loved about that, it was spontaneous. You asked me questions. I had to really think about them. I mean, it's not like, you have a memory of, like a class I just press button, I'm going to rewind my day. But,
Sure.
You were able to find those 4 quadrants, in there. You probed. Okay. You got my words. You kind of turn them around. You asked me different questions, different angles, and you were able to actually put them in the right parameters. And we got the 4 elements that you're looking for. You found them in my morning discussion, or my morning actually input or output, whatever you want to, however you want to refer to it.
Sure.
And that was excellent, because I mean, the assessment that you did there, it's really a true probing, a true finding the real thing, because I didn't give you the answer right away and you were able to get it anyways by just finding the right, and obviously this comes from expertise. You do this for a living, you understand how to do this, and I could be with you like 10 minutes more and you'll still find the exact angle as you need it, probably less, but you did it. And then you talked about the concepts of finding yourselves. And when you throw it this way, like you have to think in your mind about your mind for yourself to find yourself. That kind of like, whoa, that's big. And you're right, it's not easy. And I think that was the question we posed early on when we started the show. Do we even know what that is? And you do that. So you've showed us a little bit of your strategy, your plan, how you start the discussion and where you go. So your clients, you mentioned 17 years old that actually probably going to college and they just getting started. And eventually they get happy with where they're focus is and where they're going to be, because they get to understand who they are and what they want to be. A lot of people today, if you ask them, especially kids, what do you want to be? I don't know. As a matter of fact, a lot of people go to college, they just get their basic college and they don't even know, like by the second year, they still don't have a career path or what kind of major they want to finalize and whatever. And it's a big deal. And they get lost and repeat, sometimes change career paths or college degrees and programs just so they can establish themselves. But it's at a cost and time.
Oh, yes.
So let's talk about that. That's the clients you pretty much address, or there's more? I mean, you address different, levels of clientele.
Well, the people come to me with issues of motivation. Why am I stuck with this job? Why do I not get along with this person? Why is it that my boss and I are always struggling and fighting? Why do I get angry? Why does my wife get angry? My husband get angry? So they come to me with that. I'm not a psychiatrist. And I tell them straight out, I never use psychiatry. What I do is I use archetypes, which is just movies. When you go to a movie, they have to get your feelings moving rapidly, and they use archetypes. For example, the villain. We all have a sense of what the villain is. The good guys, the bad guys. These are all archetypes, and they use them rapidly. That's all I'm doing. But at the same time, that's what our minds are about, are these archetypes. But they're abstract. One thing I want to make a comment on what I discovered, the earliest discovery I made between the training that I had in sales here and what I learned later, it was very bizarre. I couldn't figure out why there was such a disconnect. Okay, so let's say, for example, if Bob knows how to tie shoes and Bob teaches his son how to tie shoes, his son should be able to tie shoes. This is standard form of training. Nothing wrong with it, but one thing, it's designed to generate a physical result. A physical result. Mm-hmm. Now, if Bob knows how to sell and Bob teaches Johnny how to sell, will Johnny be able to sell? We don't know. What's the difference? Sales is an abstract result, not a physical result. So when you use a model based on physical results to teach something abstract, naturally, there's going to be a huge disconnect. And that was one of my earlier discoveries. And that discovery also helped me with back to 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, what do they want to do in life? Your first breakdown is, are they really after physical results or abstract? We do both, of course, but one is dominant. And the other issue is about students, is 85% of college students change their major. Another 60% change schools. And then you have a large dropout rate. Why? All my clients are people who were misguided, drawn away from their authentic theme and desires, and done so by very well-meaning parents, for example. I assessed one gal, she was 17. Her father wanted her to be either an attorney or a realtor, and she did not want that. And we were there because she was a minor. I always have a parent there. And when we got done, she wanted to be a child psychiatrist. So in that moment, the father, I mean, he was a big man. He just broke down and started to cry. He said, "You showed me a daughter I didn't even know I had." Mm-hmm. And she says, "Oh, that sounds wonderful. I want to do that." The motivation was triggered, and she was excited for the first time, because otherwise she'd be looking at an attorney or a realtor, and that's not what she wanted to do. So she went on and got a degree, and she's in practice today. And that was about 5-6 years ago. She was finishing her degree when I first met her, and happy. I have another one who the father came to me and said, my son wanted to be in the highway patrol, as I was, but I don't necessarily need for him to do that, but he's having a little trouble now, and I want to help him out. I want to find out what's going on. So what we discovered was he was a justice person. just this person have a great deal of problem with creating conflict for other people. And what does a highway patrolman do all day? Give out tickets? So what happened was he was taking the courses for his degrees. He was excellent. And then he started to slow down when he got closer and closer to graduation. So I asked him, was there any class you liked more than any other? And probation. He liked victimology. I said, do you see why now? You don't like conflict. And it exploded. He finally found it. And continued on, went back to school, finished all his classes, and is practicing up in Northern California. And then he did that in like 2 years. Wow. And so what difference was it? It was huge. But more importantly, I can't make anyone do that. I can't. They do it themselves. I have two young men who knew each other. When I got done showing him what his theme was, and we could determine the theme of his girlfriend, one went out in the parking lot and broke up, which is not something I advocate. The other one went out in the parking lot and proposed, called him up and proposed. You don't do that with just a normal personality profile test, because this really does get to the essence of what a theme is. And really the theme is how we survive on a social level. And without that theme, we wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't have an identity. This all gets down to, how do you form an identity? There has to be something that's conforming to it. It has to be consistent. And what we do, we get hung up, especially in a capitalist society, with can. Oh, you can do that. Well, sure, you can, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean a lot. It means that's what can is open. It's infinite. What about could you do something? Well, I could raise dogs for dog sleds up in Alaska, but I'm not in Alaska, so it's not really a good could. I can, but not right now. I couldn't do it. The other one is should. Now you have a little morality in it. Should you do that? Is there something that you could do, for example, be a mortician? Should you be a mortician? Well, I don't have a should behind that. Doesn't make sense. Could, can, yeah, I guess so. But the one that I have people see for themselves is must. Must is so very, very, very different. When you must do something, you will take the consequences of that must, and you won't regret it. So how many times in life are we put in a position where I just didn't have a choice? That's what I had to do. Mm-hmm. I had to do it. When that happens, you're in touch with your authentic identity. You're in touch with your theme, and that's the time when you're in touch with that theme. Well, when I do an assessment, that's all they do is they get in touch with their theme, and that's so very important if you're going to select a career or anything. Because once you know, put it this way, finding someone else's motivation, how could you not use it? Where could you not use it? Whatever you're going to do, it doesn't matter. And so with the students, once they find their theme, their life really does change. And the parents are very, very happy with it. But parents often push their kids in the wrong direction. That's what comes to me when it comes to the 17, 16-year-olds.
Well, thank you, John. I mean, you touch on a lot of elements and items there that we need just some I guess highlights on. The one is what you just said now, and I think that's the biggest piece is that I'm a parent, and I know I'm guilty of that as well, like to a degree, where when your kids are younger, you have almost a vision of what you want them to be. Mm-hmm. And that's actually, I think all parents have that, because we all want our kids to be better than us in a way and successful and all that. But then we almost start determining what that success is going to be, not factoring in the personality and what's really going to drive them and so on and so forth. And also the environment. Sometimes we'll apply, well, I grew up in the 80s Well, my kids I grew up in now, it's a whole different world. They're not going to be subscribing the same thing. They're sociable differently. Our social life was different than theirs. So there's so many things. The job industries are different. Back in the days, if you're a salesperson, door to door was the way to go. Now you can sell online, so there's so many, you can do influence selling, right? So there's so many things, but we as parents, and a lot of people is probably listening right now, we make the mistake of like, and by the way, this is something I've actually asked before, and almost everybody I talk to, like, and you know this probably, and what did your parents want you to be, or even kids, when you talk to them, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer, an architect. Those are the standardized, I want to be a nurse, and the reason you have that, because those were the best paying jobs in general, or at least the perception was, and the parents want the kids to just be as good and settled in a nice little financial way. And so those were like the push. We want you to do this, we want you to do that. We want you to have go to certain prestigious schools and whatever, so you can get the best jobs or best opportunity and get the best degree, and you can perform the best way and make as much money as you want. And so parents push that. And you're right. So we push to a direction, and sometimes to the detriment of our kids, because they're not really happy, and therefore they'll give up and lose it. I had to adjust myself personally. I had to adjust that and kind of work with my kids differently, because I had that similar approach originally, and I started learning that it's not working well, and now I actually changed it a little bit. So my kids kind of like do their own thing. So I'm working with them towards what they feel and enjoy. So, but again, that's my example. But I can tell you that was even me as I was growing up. My parents. But that was it. We want you to be this, in corporate or a doctor or whatever. As a matter of fact, I almost was a doctor and I never made it because of, different things. I had something about law enforcement. That's me. I love law enforcement. And I never made it in law enforcement because I grew up in a family of law enforcement. And my mom, said, no, you're not going to be, anywhere where there's a risk. And so when I was a kid, that was kind of like, so that was eliminated. So as I grew up, I had always that in me, even today in my work. So you asked me earlier about this morning. Well, in my job, we have compliance, in policy and stuff. And so there was some investigation that we were doing. And so I was kind of like ready for that whole day and just doing that work. But that comes, it's still in me. No matter what, I do something different, but I still try to apply some of what I love, in terms of passion. And it motivates me. But so that was a big deal. You talked about that. And I think you clearly stated that's the most impact that you see. And when you turn things around, even the parents are like, wow, you were able to change that's a new daughter. I didn't know my daughter had it in her. So that's that's powerful. And discovering that you said somebody turned out and wind up doing the best thing that they wanted. And that's big. The statistics you mentioned about people leaving, not finishing out school, transferring. I know people actually who had multiple majors that just keep shifting and shifting. 6 years later, they still don't have one that is finalized, and they still don't know what the outcome is going to be and what career path they're going to take. That's the other thing. Some people do get into a career path, but they do the wrong one because it was a job and they got stuck into it. To your point earlier, you said people having issues with their bosses, they're not happy. It's because of the choices. But I think the choices are based on whether we understand who we are or not. And that's what you bring out to the surface. Yes.
One other issue on that point, what you should do is first know who you are and then become aware of what's available. For example, jobs. Now the next question is, which jobs are available that conform to who you are, really who you are? Then the next one is, take that collective and choose something out of that group and have that as your goal, and you will make an authentic choice. What happens is reverse. You've already said it. We start off with what makes a lot of money. Conformity, I can do anything, right? And so we miss out on the major steps in between. And so those are my clients. They missed out on experiencing who they really are beneath all of this because of the way it's designed on a social level. Back to your very point, you're a parent. I want what's best for you, but what I want for you is the best that I think is best. And this is the opportunities that I'm going to give to you, and make a selection. And so when that happens, the person really is not considered on an authentic level, but no one knows to do that. No one has the time to do that. No one has a method of doing that, at least in this country. But once you make that assessment, then everything changes. And when I speak to people, all people, adults, they can say, yeah, I know what that's like. It happened to me. My parents wanted me to be X, and oh my God, did I have a lot of fights on my hands? Or I went to school and I didn't like it. What am I doing here? I have one friend of my daughter who was an excellent guitarist in a band. Well, the parents said, you're not going to be, it's fun that you're being a guitarist, but believe me, that's not what I want you to do for a career. You're going to go back to college, and if you like guitars, you're going to learn how to make them. Oh, I just sunk when I heard that. And so he left a career that he could have done great with, and because of his parents. And I understand. Now, I'm not being critical. It's just they made more of a common sense, practical decision, because people who are in bands, most of them don't make it, but they didn't have that talent. And if you can actually pick out any career, and somebody's going to say, well, they don't all make it. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or you're an attorney or you're a CEO. Well, yeah, but that's an elite group, and you're not part of that. Or there's too much politics, you can't get in. But that's with everything. So that's not a very good approach. So I have one daughter who wanted to sing. The other one wanted to do art. And so I let her to do that because of, I took authentic systems. So what I did is I let her do that. And so she was made CDs. Then she changed her mind. She wants to be a teacher. She's a teacher today, but music teacher. My other one in art, believe it or not, she works for a government agency in art, and she's actually doing graphics. And she works with other scientists and people in the military. It's amazing what she's doing, but she started off with art. So if I was another parent, I would say, you're not going to do that. And I'd have found some other thing for her to do. And she would have missed out on being herself. And that's what really does happen. And in my journey, I'm actually angry that so many people can't see who they are, the gift they are, because of all of the propaganda is going on. Propaganda even in homes and society and et cetera, ought to be. That's all they push on these kids. And that's why I have a lot of clients today. And that's because these people did that and they're not happy, not at all. So anyway, I haven't mentioned yet, but when I did door-to-door sales, my average was 12 out of 20. 12 out of 20 door-to-door sales. Now, the average is 5%.
You're doing more than 60%.
Yeah. So how did I do it? Well, if I used the same paradigm that's taught today, it would sound like it's impossible. But I don't. What I would do is go down a street and I would read what I'm looking at, because it's all symbols, getting back to what theaters do, okay? I'm looking at symbols. Everything's a symbol. And so what I know is the symbols on the outside are going to conform to the people on the inside. So if I'm looking at, let's say, an accountant, this guy's an accountant. So I'm about to walk into that door. So let me ask you, would a career accountant be poor at math?
I don't think so. Math is their backbone.
You think an accountant would have patience?
Probably.
Yeah.
That crunch a lot of numbers, a lot of clients.
Oh, absolutely. So what I'm getting at is, because we're constricted with time, I'm getting at is I can have a very, very good workable model of the person I'm about to see.
Interesting.
Okay. So if I'm going to sell them something, I want to be very practical. I'm going to show that person the details, and I'm going to emphasize the overall benefits. Now, I go to a beauty salon. I wouldn't use any of that, because beauty salons, they're about more artistic. They're creating art. They are very connected to let's say humanity, you might say. They love to gossip. They love to talk, and they just have fun. Okay. So I will walk in and I'd say, "Hey, how are you? Have you ever seen one of my products or whatever?" And she'd say no. And I said, "Oh, Alice, 3 doors down. She just bought from me. She got me. She got this, this, and this. They're coming next week." I would never do that to an accountant. Okay. So you see, now I'm talking to her in her language. And I ended up selling 12 out of 20 every day. And it was easy.
Well, listen, anything 50% and above, in conversion would be nice. And you did that. And you're right. Especially door-to-door sales are not the easy ones. And depends what you sell too. I mean, vacuums is one thing, and some other products may not work as well. Back in the days, those were the hottest, items. I don't know what you were selling, but
I did that. I did vacuums.
Oh, there you go. So,
yeah.
I mean, I figured that was one of the biggest, opportunities out in the days. And I've seen, actually, I've done some of it personally. Literally, I've done some of that. I had an opportunity where I sold those the kitchen knives, the
Cutco cutlery.
There you go. Yeah, I did those. Yeah. I had a few things, and I've tried a lot of different sales myself, so I can relate to almost every type of sales that's out there. I've done it. I've done it at a point in my life. And but you mentioned something powerful about when you are driven to do something that is not you, you wind up not motivated, not happy. And we always hear the story not the story, the saying that says, if you are happy doing what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And that's that's the ultimate target. You mentioned about your daughters. Yes, one wanted music. She still did music, but she's teaching music. Right. The other one is an artist, but she's doing a different job, but uses artistry and art into it. So that's for our audiences. That's the other thing. You got to find there's a lot of connection between all the different tasks and businesses and opportunities and jobs and career paths. And your specialty can be implemented. Like we talked earlier, I'm in the insurance world, sales world, but I'm doing compliance investigation, Right. So, but it's, if you want something, you can find a way and you can do it, but you have to love what you do. And that doesn't happen unless you know who you are and what your personality is going to drive. Mm-hmm. And your assessment is awesome. You said it yourself. I mean, you certainly have to almost pre-profile these people based on what their end game is, and you can be prepared for that. I mean, you're talking the salesperson is one thing, to a beauty salon is one thing, to an accountant is one thing, and so on and so forth. And so you determine that in advance, and then the set of questions you might ask are not going to be the same. Exactly. The approach is going to be different. And that's big, I mean, listen, we live in a world, to your point, that has a lot of influence. And now more than ever, not only your parents influence you, mm-hmm. your surroundings influence you, your other peers influence you. I mean, kids sometimes are the driver, not to the other kids.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I see that with my kids. They gravitate towards what other kids are doing. See, I lived in a different mode. My motto personally is I want to be unique. I mean, obviously we're all unique. Every human is unique. You are you. Nobody else is you. But in terms of what, if people are doing 99% doing this, I don't mind. I'm going to do the 1% thing that they're not doing. I'll think of something different. I want to be the difference, make the difference for myself, and be unique in my own way, and maybe find my own way. So that's just my little formula. So I don't subscribe necessarily to what other people say or do and how it is standardized. I do a thing that's going to work for me, and it's been working literally for me personally. You mentioned something about I lost it right now. We're talking about the thought process. No, actually, so I'll come back to that one. So you wanted to say something. I thought you had something there about your book or something. Nope.
No, it was something else. But I've noticed that a pattern in you. And what I really do, it comes across in for me, it's a huge way, is you're always concerned with fairness and balance, symmetry. And if you were to look at all the major decisions you've made in life, that's going to be the crux of it. And a lot of people don't think that way. We do, but we don't do it as a habit to take all the alternatives. And justice people do that. Justice people are the entrepreneurs of the world because they have two major faculties that complement each other. One is the need to know, which you have. The other is a sense of humanity and caring for people at the same time. So there was a restaurant that was run by someone who was a justice person, ran beautifully, sold it. A wisdom person bought it, and it lasted about 4 months. So the wisdom person knew what to do, maybe, but didn't understand people's needs. Who were they? What makes them tick? What's going to make my restaurant move? He didn't know. They lasted about 4 months. That happened to two accountants who worked for a major Big 8 CPA firm in San Francisco. They decided to open up a spaghetti factory and restaurant. They lasted 6 months. They knew, but they didn't know the people. They didn't know how to deal with people. And that was telling, just as people do. They have both sides. And by knowing that, you can also know what type of entrepreneur that you would be best in. That's another area that I deal with. So in the meantime, you went through a lot of experimentation. And then you feel something's good and you go with it. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to go through that experience and feel it and then find out? What if you knew it in advance? And that's what knowing your theme is. You know it in advance. And so I know who I'm going to get along with before I even meet them. And I know what type of jobs I would hate before I even think about it, or dislike, I should say. Also, the greatest confirmation I've ever had about this system of the 4 domains, love, justice, wisdom, and power, is the United Nations Education and Scientific and Cultural Organization, or called UNESCO. They use the same exact domains. This is an organization that consists of 193 nations. Their primary motivation is to have the world get along, world peace. And they've explored into each different culture what's needed and what generates success and happiness. And this is what they came up with. People need to learn how to get along. They need to learn how to do and actually perform acts. They need to learn how to learn. That's another big issue, especially today. And the most important was they need to learn to be themselves. And this is exactly what I've been doing. The difference is UNESCO started in 1945. I didn't know about it until about 7 years ago. But this is also, the 4 is repeated by the Toltecs, by the way. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher, same. So this pattern of love, justice, wisdom, and power has been around for a long time. The difference is I used it toward a practical end. That's all.
And it's working.
And it works. And that's why it works in a very phenomenal way. Because once I get someone motivated to see their motivation, then they have all the juice in the world. There's nothing else for me to do. They just take off.
It's preemptive, and you're right. If you can almost like know where you're going to be better in the future, and this is a way to almost anticipate those and avoid, dilemmas, like having a sixth sense.
Yes.
By the way, that came back to me because I was going to tell you earlier about the should, the could, the can, the would. That was what I was going to make the comment about. That's actually powerful. That ties into this because you're right. A must is one thing. the should is, so there's questionable things. Everybody can, if you ask anybody, can you do this? Yeah, probably can.
Yeah, always.
If I learn it, I can do it. I think everybody can learn something and will be able to do it. But is that really what you really, really want to do?
That's right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing because you don't think about it that way. See, like most of us, we go about our days, but we're not taking a minute and kind of posed and like, wait a minute, what do I really want? Who am I? And I mean, those are powerful questions. Now, again, your background in philosophy is conditioning you from day one to always question things and reset things, because that's philosophy. You ask the questions that people may not want to ask, and you want to find. You start with the real extreme and find your way back. And that's really what the main thing that we don't do on a day-to-day basis. We're not philosophers by default. We can be sometimes when we want to be, as a matter of just lifestyle. But at the end of the day, if we ask questions correctly, we will be able to do it. But again, sometimes without help, we won't be able to do it either, because we don't know what to ask. That's why we have you.
They don't know the questions. That's you hit on a very good point about what philosophy is and what it's not. Think of philosophy as a tool, like a screwdriver, like a wrench. Philosophy is a tool used for us to understand invisible, abstract ideas. It's a tool, and it doesn't teach you much any more than a wrench would. It just sits there. What we learn in a philosophy is logic, cause and effect, criteria, distinction. That's what we learn. Outside of that, in philosophy, you don't learn anything. What you have to do is apply it to an abstract idea. Now you can apply it. Now I'm going to get the correlation is mathematics. Mathematics doesn't teach you anything. Okay? 2 plus 2 can be 4, but that doesn't mean there's any apples to count. So you learn math so you can understand visible, physical objects. Philosophy, invisible, abstract ideas. Okay? Right. So when you use now, if I ask you, do you think that the death penalty is unusual, cruel and unusual punishment? You say yes. That's your opinion. But now if I say, why do you think that way? You're going to weave together your beliefs, your values in a nice cohesive manner. And as you're doing that, you are in fact philosophizing. It's an activity. There's no result to it. This is why if you take a class, the prof will say, I don't care what answer you come up with. I want to know why you came up with it. That's all they care about. That's why, because philosophy teaches you how to approach abstract ideas.
It's amazing. It's a whole different world. But it's necessary. I mean, to your point, it's almost like you said, there's math, which is tangible. It's, straight. It's linear. You know exactly what it is. I mean, there's more to it. But here you're talking about the stuff that is unseen, intangible, something that is like, philosophy, there's God, creation, everything. I mean, you question almost everything in philosophy, but to your point, it's the why and how. And that's as deep as it gets in terms of, thinking process. And when you start doing that, there's a lot of stuff that you can discover. And yes, sometimes it gets back, whatever it is, you can still find whatever the outcome you want, but you just go to it from the angle of, I'm going to question the hell out of it.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So as you can guess, of the 4 themes, I'm a wisdom, and a wisdom person can have an IQ of 70. Okay. And a love person can have an IQ of 170. It has no correlation whatsoever. All it means is that I'm just constantly curious, and I'm curious about being curious. So that always runs me. So when I think about why is it that these intelligent people are standing in front of a room teaching their methods on how they became successful to all these people out in the audience who are bright and eager to learn, why is the fail rate so high? That's what started me. And so I realized that I had to, there's something going on, and it was the method in which they do it. So here, to give you another way of looking at it, I'm going to make a description, and you just tell me what you think I'm thinking about. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a man is standing on a field, and in front of him is a rectangle in white powder at large, and every 10 yards there's another line of white powder.
Football
Okay,
field.
what came to mind?
Football field.
Okay, wait, let's see. Okay, now that is exactly right. Okay, and I never mentioned football fields. I didn't have to. But what we did is I gave you a holistic view and not a linear view. And I gave you an abstract view, not a physical view. Okay. So that's how you teach an abstract idea. It's correlation of many other items. So if you hadn't guessed and you were very rapid on that, then I would say, okay, so there's a man and he walks up to the coach and says, will he make it? What does that mean? Well, it could be that will he make the touchdown? Will he make the kick? Well, it's the same thing. I never said that, but the person will come up with those ideas. So the imagination of someone is the mental abilities that people have is quite remarkable, as you will know. And you can't use it. It's not designed for physical results. It's abstract results. And so that's the big disconnect that I got from sales training, is it's all linear and physical result.
But John, you've proven that while that might work for some, your method also works, and it's just a different, way of approaching it. And it worked for you because it brought you up. I mean, it really showed you who you were, really, and how to operate in that realm, and you successfully. And not only that, you took it now to the next stage where now you teach these concepts and you actually help people really determine who they are, what they really want, right, where they want to be, and be successful and not fail eventually because they've made the decision of taking the wrong path. So that's powerful in itself. I mean, that's something we all need. I mean, sometimes we all think that we know what we want, but unless that's what we ask sometimes people to help us. You need to seek sometimes help no matter what. No one can figure this life alone. And we have different ways of finding, our paths, but seeking through someone who actually has a method in place, a formula, that is successful, that's been proven, that's powerful. And again, that brings us to you. So John, how can we, first of all, I want to just quickly take a minute about the book that we talked about earlier. And also how to get people to you. I mean, we're coming to the end of the hour, but I want to make sure that people have access to you, because I know people can use your services and definitely can use your method and approach. And I think we all need, a little bit of help here. So
everybody needs it. That's for sure. Yeah. So what I did is I already contacted one of my team members. We're creating a screen called iHealth.authentic systems.com.
Nice.
Okay. And that's how to contact me.
Okay. I like the iHealth part. That's our theme.
I know you do.
I love it.
So yes. And so we wanted to make it unique to you. And that's being designed in effect today. When would this come out?
By the end of the week.
Okay.
And like weekend.
Yeah. So that'll be up and running. Then what I do is I contact them and just discuss whatever their needs are and take it from there.
Perfect. Well, all right. So definitely this will be, and I'll also put note on the description of the show so they'll have access to it, and hopefully they can connect, with you and hopefully connect and get the resources and the help that they need. And even, a consultation, asking questions, knowing what it is, people can value that. And may I just ask, and again, I don't know if you can answer or not. I mean, cost-wise, is that, by the hour? Is that a program? Is that
it's actually, right. There's no fixed price. And it's much of it's on the issues they want to discuss. If you want to have, let's say, a full, you want to discover your life theme. That'd be under $300. It's not much. Now, if you want to take that plus apply it to your career, then it might be a little bit more, but not much. So it's very inexpensive.
And how long is that a one session? Is that like a series of
Oh,
sessions?
good. Yes, it's about 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay. And I take 2 hours so the person can see what I'm doing, so I can work with them and they could see for themselves the path they're going through. Then what I do is after the 2 hours, do something very unique. I meet them a week later because I want them to validate everything we discover. So when we initially, they fill out a book and their answer questions through the week. We meet. How did that show up for you? How was our discoveries? And then I've never had someone come with something different in 30 years. Then what I do is I write a composite discovery workbook that is exclusive to them, and then I send that out to them. So it's quite a bit of work.
Well, I have to say, I mean, for people to really invest in themselves and get, the true formula that they need to succeed in life, and that is a minute, cost. And I think, listen, sometimes we spend more than that on shoes and, and
Sure.
unnecessary stuff, and then sometimes we can spend that at a weekend, getaway. So it's good for memories. That's great. I'm not putting that down as an idea, but certainly, one of the things that we sometimes miss on is invest in ourselves and our futures and our just mental state, our discovery and all the things. I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, and we've talked, this is a theme that repeats itself across the board. We sacrifice the most important things, whether it's on health, wellness, mental state, everything. And sometimes we probably spend a lot more money on nothing, just because we want to, maybe wear something that is expensive or whatever. I'd rather, discover me and get the right pad and hopefully, make the money to earn anything I want and buy anything I want with it. Right. So it just logically, sometimes we're not seeing it that way. And I think by positioning it on the show right now, hopefully people can see that, hey, which way do I go? I mean, small investment, great outcome. So that's how I look at it. Now, John, I know one last question here. This is virtual, right? Or in person?
Yeah. Oh, no, either way.
Either way. Okay, good. And finally, again, there is a book. We talked about you being an author. What's the name of the book?
Discover the Power That Drives Your Personality.
Ooh, that's great. And that's available on Amazon, I'm assuming, and on all the Barnes and Nobles and all that.
And then I have another book, Learn to Sell What They're Buying.
I like it.
That's a journal. It's a journal. So it has a directive to it, but it's not a standardized book. But what it does is shows how the authentic identity is interwoven in various approaches to sales that I use for 20 years.
I love that. Just the topics or the titles themselves are powerful enough. I'm sure the books are going to be rich and the journal is going to be very, very good guide, for anyone who wants to succeed. And again, the theme that we've been discussing about sales, but these things apply to life in general, not just sales. And I think that's there's no difference between life and the life of salespeople, because everything we use is about psychology, behavior. And it's funny, my last show, which hasn't posted yet, had also to do about behavioral sales or behavior sales. And it's like, I didn't plan them. They just happened to be scheduled the same week. So I didn't even connect those two dots until today. So, but it's amazing how that things work. I mean, the world, the universe works in a very, serious way, in a different way, mystical way.
Yes.
And without planning things, sometimes they just work out, but it's reinforcing and I love it.
Pardon me. I just want to say one thing, is that my clients are people who fell through the cracks. So what I mean by that is there are many outstanding self-help courses, seminars, workshops, and approaches to sales that work for many people. My people are the ones that it just didn't work for. That's all.
Well, again, even if something works for you, you can always find an alternative way, right? And learn different ways. That's the other thing. We're set in our ways and finding a different angle. I mean, your approach sounds like it's it's a time savior, because you can really establish yourself sooner than you should. You don't have to learn through trials and errors to find out your way. You can just find it immediately. I mean, I give you a good example analogy that I use with my kids. Like, well, you don't have to experience cigarettes to actually know the outcome of this season stuff. You know already by default. We have enough evidence, so I don't have to test it out. Same thing here. Do I have to go through like multiple, experiences and different paths and different degrees and different jobs to find out whether I'm good at this or not? No, not necessarily. But if you can find a way that gives you that pill, that once you swallow, it's over. You see clear. This is it. This is my path. I'm going this way. Nothing else is going to stop me, and I'll be the best person I can be. That's priceless. So
there's a lot of books that will explain how knowing who you are is so very important. The issue becomes, how do you find what that is? And that's what I did. That's the issue. How do you find that? And all of my clients find that.
Well, we want people to find that, and we all actually can use finding, the bottom line to us and the theme of our lives. And John, so we're coming to the end of the show, but I want you to just leave us with maybe a couple of, a piece of advice or a couple of words of wisdom that we can just share with the audiences before we close the show.
Well, the major issue for me, my major discovery I had was that the human mind only has one need. When you look at it from that perspective, then you could say, what is it that I could not live without? And you'll find it. And when you find it, right there is your life theme. Right there is your authentic identity, because that's what we're doing. We're always forming, empowering, and expressing our authentic identity. And so if you're not making the money you want, or if you're not happy, know that it's because you're not expressing your authentic identity. You're missing it. Now, it's not your fault. You're not to blame, because there's a lot of things around the world to put you off in the wrong path. But happiness is being in connection with your authentic, unhappiness is losing that connection. And those are the two key components to finding who you are.
And with those words, we're going to have to end the show, John. It was a great time. It was an honor. I've learned a lot, and, I got myself tested a little bit with you. So it's good. You put me to the trial there, and I love it. It's a great opportunity, folks. If you have the chance, please check out the description, click on the link, reach out to John and see what it means to you, and or to your family members. Maybe it's your kids, someone that you want to assist. I guess that could be a gift, for someone that you love. And that being said, John, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Folks, thank you for watching, for listening in, and we'll be talking soon. Different guests, different show, different topic. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.